Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we start another 3-hour celebration of the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle right here in the great state of Michigan. This show is all about hunting and fishing, shooting, trapping, wildlife issues, conservation issues, even some wild game cooking. That's what this show is about. But what do almost all of those things depend on? At least our hunting and fishing passions, cravings, depends on the weather, the whims of Mother Nature. We are at the whim of Mother Nature. Mother Nature can be wonderful. She can be beautiful and calm and sunny and light winds, or she can be absolutely mean, ugly, and rotten. And since we've last talked, we've kind of seen that side of Mother Nature, haven't we? I mean, we've seen all sides of the weather. I was driving back last weekend from Novi to the central part of the state where I live, and once we hit about Flint, it was 68 degrees in Novi. We hit Flint, now we're heading north, the weather started to drop. And by the time we hit mid-Michigan, we had lost 27 degrees. And I suspect had we continued to go further north, we would have lost more. We also, if we would have continued north, would have run into devastation in some parts of our state with an ice storm, with snow and ice. As I am sitting here in the studio Wednesday morning right now, there are still parts of our state without power. And I was surprised as I was doing my behind the mic live stream here in the studio, which it's comfortable in here. We've got lights in here. And I felt really bad because the number of people online on the stream with me were talking about that they still didn't have power. Oh, what a shame. I pray that by the time the show airs this weekend, everybody's up and running again, right? It's, she can be fickle. She can be. But we're now into the month of April, so it's got to be looking better. April, right? April showers bring May flowers. What does April ice bring? I talked to my buddy Johnny Bowler. He's still plowing snow in the Yoop, but he's about done with it. He's pretty much had enough of it. It is time for your new fishing licenses. Please don't forget about that. I've talked ad nauseum about the cost of fishing licenses. You know, people say, oh, they're going up, and they probably will. That they're not going up for 2025. They actually, when you talk to the people in the know behind the scenes who know how long it takes to get things done, they may not even go up for the 2026 year. It will more likely be 2027. How much will they go up? I don't know. The governor proposed roughly a 40% increase across the board, an average for hunting and fishing licenses. I doubt if it will be that much, but they're going to go up. They haven't gone up in 10 years. And I said last week, you know, I do think our hunting and fishing licenses are a good deal. And I did get some comments saying, Avery, you know, I agree they're a good deal, but I will go along with a hunting or fishing license fee increase. And that's funny, right? Because you or I can say, well, I'm going to go along with it. Well, we don't have a choice, right? Once it's mandated to us, we have to go along with it if we want to continue to hunt and fish. And I think we do. They say, I will go along with a hunting and fishing license fee increase if that money goes back into hunting and fishing. Agreed. It's supposed to. What else is going on? As you are hearing this show, it's only 2 weeks till the start of the Michigan turkey season. This one kind of snuck up on me, I'll be honest with you, because there were just other things going on. This one I'm really excited about, though, not because I want to shoot a bird, but because I want to get my grandson Trent a bird. He sent me a picture last week. He says, Grandpa, you think this will kill a bird? And he had one of those turkey targets where he'd been out patterning a shotgun. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know Trent had a shotgun. I was going to let him use my Mossberg 835 Ultimag. But he's actually got a shotgun that he got from his great-grandpa. Not my dad, but on the other side. And it's a Remington 1100, which is a fine, wonderful shotgun, but you don't have an interchangeable choke in it. And when he patterned the gun, it's only good out to about 20 yards. So I'm going to leave this up to Trent. If he wants to use that gun, and I get wanting to use your great-grandpa's gun for hunting, I completely get that. Knowing that his range will be a little bit limited, I'll support him 1,000% on that. If he decides he wants to be able to reach out a little longer, I'll let him use that Mossberg that I bought several years ago at Jay's, specifically for turkey hunting. It's got an interchangeable choke in it. We got a turkey choke in there. It's got fiber optic sights on it, so it's a little bit more conducive to turkey hunting. But that's completely his call. Whatever he wants to do, I'll back him. But I'm excited. I'm excited to get him out here and get him out there and get him turkey hunting. As I drive around, haven't really seen that many birds, but my buddy Scott, who is graciously allowing us to hunt there once again, my buddy Scott, I won't give his last name because I don't know if he's comfortable with that or not. He's just a peach of a guy, and he's got a beautiful piece of heaven. He's got a bunch of land, and he manages it for wildlife, and he has been so generous about letting me hunt there, especially when it involved hunts with my grandkids. He's like, you're going to bring your grandkids out here, you get carte blanche. You can hunt anytime you want. He's just been wonderful about that because he's one of those people who understands that the future of our lifestyle depends on these young kids coming up. The future of it is not in the hands of guys like me, right? I've had my run. I hopefully will continue to hunt and fish for several more years, but even if I don't, I have had many wonderful experiences. I've spent a lot of money over the years on licenses and equipment and gear to help support the cause. I've done my part. I will continue to do it as much as I can. But we need those young folks coming up. Now, Trent's hardcore, right? He's going to buy his licenses. He's going to buy gear. But we need people like that. So if we can get Trent a bird, we're going to get Trent a bird. Depending on where you live in our state, you might not even be remotely thinking about food plots yet. But just a heads up, a little inside baseball here. We are going to start the Killer Food Plots podcast back up next week. This week, there was a brand new offshore tackle podcast you can listen to. Coming up midweek, there will be a new Killer Food Plots podcast. We originally started that with Nick Percy, the guy who started Killer Food Plots. We actually lost Nick during COVID. It took a little while to restructure things behind the scenes, but Rich and Ellie Krazan, Rich used to work for Nick. He was able to acquire the company, was able to buy the company, get it up and running, and they're flourishing again. So Rich is going to take over that Killer Food Plots podcast. So more on that coming up. Oh, do I want to okay, I'll just leave it at this. Okay. All right. You know the sound, right? That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. You know that there is an Avery 10 promo code. I saw on the Rapid River Knife Works website the other day. I'm looking at it and it says, hey, click here to save 10% on your first order. I'm like, what? 10%? Well, the Avery 10 promo code gets my listeners 10%. That's not good enough. We need to do something more. Well, we're going to. Don't forget about our Ham for the Holidays giveaway during Lent. You can do that on Wednesday Night Live every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. There's only a couple of them left, I guess. We've got a Wednesday Night Live coming up at the Lumberjack Restaurant on the 23rd, the first Wednesday after Easter. Call 989-343-0892 for reservations. Don't wait, though. We're just about filled up. Coming up on this week's show, after the break, Karl Burnside, who is the president of the Michigan Charter Boat Association, they are meeting in Mount Pleasant this weekend for their annual conference. Karl will talk to me about that and more. Then Bill Hammond of Hammond Drives and Equipment. We're going to introduce you to that company here on this week's show. In our second hour, we're talking turkey with Greg Abbas of A-Way Outdoors. Then Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives joins me with a little bit of an announcement. And, of course, this week's Ask Avery question. Then in our third hour, Nick DeShano of Offshore Tackle, talking about that company, that Michigan-based family-owned company, talking about trolling in general and kicking off the spring fishing season. And, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar wraps it all up. This week, Dave doesn't have a recipe. We're just shooting the breeze. Shooting the breeze about how Dave got to where he is. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. Don't hesitate to reach out, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WPHM in Port Huron, that's 1380 AM. Let's go to St. Joe, WSJM 94.9 FM. And let's go north, way north, to Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, and believe me, the folks are fishing out of Linwood Beach Marina right now whenever Mother Nature allows. Saginaw Bay walleye fishing has been very good so far this spring. And, of course, you got the springtime fishery and then on into the summertime. Linwood Beach in a beautiful spot with great facilities and great people. LinwoodBeachMarina.com, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. I bring up Linwood Beach Marina because there are many very good anglers who fish out of the Linwood Beach Marina. Many of them are good friends of mine, both hardcore recreational weekend warriors and charter captains. And that's my segue into our first guest this week. His name is Karl Burnside. He's the president of the Michigan Charter Boat Association. And as I say, he joins me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Karl, welcome to the show. How are you?
Mike, I'm doing great. And you?
I'm doing just great, although I got a few more years of work ahead of me. And I hear that you're making a big transition in your life. What's going on?
I am. I'm retiring as a mechanical engineer from GM after 31 years in about 11 days. So big transition for me, but plenty still for me to do between charter fishing and working with the MCBA.
All right, let's talk about MCBA, Michigan Charter Boat Association, here shortly, but I want to learn more about you. Did you grow up on the water? Did you always want to be a charter captain? How did you get to where you're at, Karl?
Well, where I'm at is at a young age, my dad, at the age of 7, I was on a boat. My dad had a 21-foot sailboat, a Falcon, one of the first fiberglass boats. I think that was produced. It was like a 54 or 55 Falcon. And I'm from a small community called Avon Township that is no longer there. You might know it as Rochester Hills now, but it used to be a township. So way back in the day, we lived out there. And he had this boat over on Lake St. Clair. And at the age of 7, I started going on it, and I absolutely fell in love with the water and with sailing. But my passion quickly became more focused around fishing out the backside of the boat, which my dad really didn't appreciate. He wanted me to focus on the sailing, but I was more interested in catching the walleye and some panfish out there whenever I could. So it's always been kind of a lifelong thing, always been a boater. And about just short of 10 years ago, I decided to start a charter business up here in the Thumb, and went and got my captain's license. And
you froze up. You went and got your captain's license and what, Karl?
Got my captain's license and started a charter service. And, that's the story. That's where we're at. Loving it.
So you're based out of what port?
Out of Bayport.
Bayport.
The Bayshore Marina in Bayport.
So you're a walleye guy.
I'm a walleye guy. Yep. And I fish for salmon and steelhead too. I enjoy that. In fact, I'm thinking about doing more of that now that the coho are kind of coming back over in Lake Huron here. Starting to offer maybe some charters over there in the future. But primarily a walleye guy. I love the walleye. Our customer base is great. Get a lot of kids first time out on a charter boat. Always get the big eyes, right? Wow, how big is this lake type thing for folks that have never been on the lake. So usually they're really fun trips and people are really excited. And for the youth, right? I mean, it's a great fish to start on from a charter perspective because the kids can handle them well and they won't get overpowered by a salmon.
Yeah. You mentioned people out there for the first time. The deeper I get into this, and, I am a licensed charter captain. I'm a member of the Michigan Charter Boat Association, but I'm not a working captain, right? I just take people out for fun. But the deeper I get into this, the more I see and the more I learn from guys like you is that the fish are just a bonus. The trip is not about taking people out to catch fish. The trip is about taking people out to enjoy the experience, and anything beyond that is wonderful.
And my first mate is Steve Saris. It's a little shout out to him. He does a great job with the folks on the back of the boat and explaining, the ecology of Saginaw Bay and how important that is, as a bird estuary and other things and all the things that we see out there. We got pelicans. I think you probably know we got pelicans out there now.
I tell you, the first time I saw one of those, I was out with my son, James, and we were driving along and I looked to my left and I thought, nope, I'm not going to say a thing. And I couldn't hold my tongue after about 30 seconds. I said, "Did you see those pelicans?" He said, "Yep, I saw them too." And I wasn't going to mention them because I thought we were both crazy, but it's cool, isn't it?
It is. And, originally I started that charter business years ago out of Seaboing, and I found that Bayshore Marina up at Bayport offers me the ability to go either direction depending where walleye travel. So I can go south, I could go out north, out past the Charities, whatever I need to do, kind of split the boat right up, in time to get where we got to go fishing. But if you recall, a couple of years ago, we had a hurricane. I think it was 2 years ago. And I don't know if you ever heard about the pink flamingos that were in Seaboing. And somehow they got blown up out of this hurricane. I think it was one that hit the Carolinas. And these pink flamingos were in Seaboing for about a week and a half. It was crazy. So we've actually had pink flamingos on the Saginaw Bay. So you never know exactly what you're going to see.
Man, I bet that got your attention.
It did. It was the talk of the town out there.
Karl, when will you start your charters for the summer or for the spring?
I'm going to be a little bit late this year. We got a lot going on with the MCBA in my retirement from my day job. I'm actually starting the 26th of May. I usually start on the 1st of May, but boat needs to get inspected. Want to make sure that's perfect before folks go out. And just the timing's not going to work this year, so I'm a couple weeks late, which really bums me out.
No, I think people will forgive you with everything you've got going on. When you look around the state right now, Karl, and I know you stay in touch with your members all across the state, there's a lot of fishing going on right now, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there is. There's a lot of fishing going on right now. You go down in Bay City right now, go over the bridges, like the Independence Bridge. It's amazing. It's just some days the anglers out there are just about elbow to elbow, So the fishing is good. And I'm hearing the fishing is good on the west side of the state as well.
Yeah, steelhead up in the rivers and the early season coho fishing. Of course, Lake Erie, Detroit River, that's crazy down there.
That's hot right now. Sure. Yep.
So tell me about the Michigan Charter Boat Association. You represent guys who fish in every corner of the state.
Sure we do. We represent you, Mike.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, let me ask you this then. What do you have a feel for how many of your people are full-time charters and guides versus people who do it on the side?
Well, okay, so I would classify myself obviously as one on the side because I've got a day job. I would say at least 65% of our people are doing this full-time. I would. I know several guides and charters up here in the Thumb area. Those guys are doing it full time. But I'd say 60 to 65%. That would be my guess. It'd be over half for sure. But, we represent the Michigan Charter Boat Association represents licensed captains on the Great Lakes. We're promoting a professional charter industry, advocacy of the charter industry, right, to grow it, right, for other captains. And we also do things, as far as stewardship of the lakes, to protect our pristine lakes and the wonderful resource we have in the Great Lakes right in our backyard.
How many captains are out there these days compared to, say, I don't know, is it growing? Are there more folks jumping on this bandwagon now or fewer?
I would say it's staying about average. I wouldn't say that there's more or less. You see charter captains retire because a lot of the guys that started this back in the day are retiring. I'm one of the younger ones. I'm still kind of middle-aged, right? I'm up in my mid-50s. But I am seeing a lot of young captains, come up and join the MCBA. I just talked with a member today out on the west side of the state. He's got 10 newly minted captains that have joined and are going to come to our membership meeting here on Saturday. So that's fantastic. But I'd say it pretty much is a balance. I would say that it's excessively increasing in the number of captains or decreasing. I'd say it's a balance.
It's great to hear, though, you're talking about these young folks getting involved, because in any organization or group or whatever, that's one of the things we fight, right? Is you got the older people in there who are active, but you need that young blood. You need the young guns to come in. They bring you the excitement and the new ideas, the fresh ideas. So I'm glad to hear that. There was a point, Mike, where, back before the pandemic, I don't know if the pandemic had anything to do with it, but we would take, families out and they'd have younger children and they would sit there on these phones like I'm on, and they wouldn't even pay attention to fishing. They'd just be playing with the phones and entertain themselves. And I always thought to myself, I said, gosh, they're we try to engage them, but they're stuck to this electronic device. And now in recent years, the past 2-3 years, I've noticed a trend change. These kids are putting the phones down and they're not paying attention to them, and they're getting up and they're participating and they want to know what's going on, and they want to learn about how to catch these fish. And it's fantastic. So I don't know what changed, but I love the trend because I feel like you do, as a youth, I was out anytime I could with my friends and in a fishing rod and a worm, just trying to catch anything I could, in a lake or a stream or whatever we came across in our neighborhoods, So yeah, it's a good trend and I'm enjoying that. I'm glad to see that. Think about that. As a kid, you're running around, Karl Burnside, running around trying to catch any fish you can. And now, years later, you find yourself as a captain and as the president of the Michigan Charter Boat Association. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's pretty darn cool. To tell you the truth, it proves to you that you can do anything you want. And the possibilities are endless if you set your mind to it.
Absolutely. We are talking with Karl Burnside. As I say, he is the president of the Michigan Charter Boat Association. The website, michigancharterboats.com. That's michigancharterboats.com. Now, as you are hearing this radio show, the Michigan Charter Boat Association is having their annual meeting in Mount Pleasant. So we got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. But when we come back, we'll talk more with Karl about the meeting, about what's on the horizon for charter boats, for Great Lakes fishing here in the Great Lakes State in general, and a lot more as we wrap up our conversation with Karl Burnside, president of the Michigan Charter Boat Association, michigancharterboats.com. Welcome back to the Outdoor Magazine Show. You can hear us all across our great state, including in Alpena, WZTK 105.7 FM. You can also hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. Getting to be that time of year. Now, I know if you're listening to me in the UP or the Northern Lower, you're thinking, Avery, it's going to be a while before we put in food plots. I get that. But it's coming, right? And you want to be ready. So I would recommend you check out Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots. Their website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. And here's a little inside information for you. We're starting the Killer Food Plots podcast back up again. So you can keep an ear out for that. More details on that coming up. But in the meantime, though, I'm talking with Karl Burnside, who is he's a charter captain, but he's also president of the Michigan Charter Boat Association. As you are hearing this show, that group is meeting in Mount Pleasant for their annual conference. Karl, what happens at that meeting? What are you guys looking to accomplish?
Well, generally at our meeting, it's, camaraderie between the captains, talking about issues, right? Things of that nature, just on a personal basis, meeting captains, making connections, right? But, we do a lot of things. We try to educate our captains on, and in this particular case, at our meeting coming up on Saturday, we're going to be talking, have guests from the United States Coast Guard drug program, explaining the drug program and its details and some of the changes that are out there that are happening. They're trying to go more electronically based, which is terrific. So we're going to be losing a lot of forms and things. And it's going to be kind of like if you need a drug test, we're going to send you a text message with a, QR code, and you just take that for your scan, right?
Nice.
We also do things like talk about, license renewals. Okay. We have Chuck Kakuska come in. He's been a favorite of our organization for years. Very helpful man with our CK licensing business that he has. And we talk about anything for help for licensing and renewal of the Coast Guard license, things of that nature. And then, we have other things too. We have guest speakers from, of course, the biggest one is the DNR, right? We're going to have the chief of fisheries there, Randy Claremont, and also the lake basin coordinators. And this particular year, we're going to get the information firsthand from Randy and his crew of directors of, the health of the Great Lakes and what's being done to stock these fish out there and the programs they have in mind. So there's a lot of good things that are going to happen out there.
You say a lot of good things. As you're talking about these different things, I'm going through my head, about all the forms you guys have, all the hoops you've got to jump through, all the regulations, and then you got things beyond your control, like consent decree negotiations. You've got water levels. You've got Mother Nature coming at you. People say to me, hey, Avery, I love to fish, so I'd love to be either a tournament pro or a charter captain. I say, good for you. God bless you. But be careful what you wish for, because once you get behind the scenes of these things, they're not always what they look like from the outside, right?
Right. Well, I will say, and my wife, Karen, has said several times, she says, I don't know why you've chosen a profession that is so highly regulated, but they are regulated, right, for a reason. Key is safety, right, to keep you safe out there. Michigan is, probably the strictest state, right, for inspections of the boat, the vessel, and the equipment, and the qualifications of the person piloting it. And that's really, when you think about that, that's really a good thing if you're taking your family out. So you can always trust, a Charter Boat Association member that they are vetted to the very highest standard by the U.S. government and the state, right, for safety and for knowledge. Okay. But yeah, it does. There's a lot of things out there that, I often look at it this way. It's kind of like, I equate us with the weather, like you're saying, and the water levels. We're kind of like farmers, but we're on a boat. Farmers went through a lot of the same problems with weather and, crops coming in or crops not coming in, or a windstorm destroying their crop. And we face the same thing with low water levels where we can't get out, or extremely high water levels causing, that was crazy here the past couple of years, and a lot of the seawalls that I had to avoid out there. I'm sure there's other captains who could tell you stories about that. But, there's a lot of variables to it. But then again, that's the attraction to it, too, because it's a lot of excitement. There's never a dull moment.
I love that description you just gave me, because I've never thought of that before, but it certainly does hold true. Karl, listen, as we're recording this show, obviously you haven't had your meeting yet. So I will say, I hope you had a great meeting or are having a great meeting. I appreciate your time. Congrats on your retirement, and good luck out there this summer. Hey, listen, you scoot your way down towards the Bay City and we'll be talking about where the fish are. All right.
Fantastic. Mike, I appreciate so much being on your show today. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you, Karl Burnside of the Michigan Charter Boat Association. Again, the website, michigancharterboats.com, michigancharterboats.com. As I mentioned, I am a member of the Michigan Charter Boat Association. I am a licensed charter captain, but I am not about to put myself in the same league as the folks who go out there day in and day out and do it for a living. I maintain friendships with these guys. I use them for resources. I don't want to pretend to be in competition with these folks at all. I can go out and I can catch fish, and I go out a lot of days that I don't catch so many fish, but I always have a good time. So again, I am not trying to portray myself as a working full-time charter captain, but I have much respect for these guys, including Karl Burnside of the Michigan Charter Boat Association. Again, the website, michigancharterboats.com. That's michigancharterboats.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute? If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins can help you out. If you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins can help you out there as well. Go to the website, versaskins.com, to see what I mean, versaskins.com. Or you can go to amazon.com and do a search for VersaSkins brand, and you'll find them there as well. VersaSkins, Michigan-based, family-owned VersaSkins. I love that. And I do love working with Michigan-based, family-owned companies, including our newest member of the Outdoor Magazine family, Hammond Drives and Equipment. Bill Hammond is the guy behind that company and has been for 30 years, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Bill, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well, Mike. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you as well.
Thanks for having us on your show.
Well, listen, tell me a little bit about you. You're a pretty hardcore outdoorsman, aren't you?
Yeah, have been my whole life. I was born and raised in the country in Saginaw Township, and grew up hunting pheasants, much like yourself as a kid, and it got groomed into my being. So, and it's gone on from there to deer hunting and all things outdoors. I love to fish. Again, much like yourself, and it's all part of Michigan. It's a wonderful place to be, and I've been to a lot of other states, but it's always great coming back to Michigan, even with snow, rain, sleet, and all the things we're having today.
This spring, we don't know what we're going to get. Now, you got a camp in the UP too. Did you deer hunt up there this year, Bill?
I was up there. I didn't do a lot of deer hunting. Had some personal family things going on that
Gotcha.
Precluded that, but I do go up there regularly, and matter of fact, I'd be up there right now if it wasn't for a couple of days worth of bridge closures.
Oh, man, I know it. So listen, Bill, you reached out to me and you said, look, Mike, I got a company here and some products and services that I think your listeners would be interested in. Tell me more about that.
Well, we're a Freeland-based company. We're born and raised here as a company, and as much like my kids grew up here, and I went through various growing pains from my wife and I together at the start to where we are now. with roughly 20 folks working with us, helping us out, and a bunch of great people. And we're in a great location right on M47 and in Freeland, easy to get to. And we service, we're classified as an industrial distributor, which doesn't mean a whole lot of anything to anybody unless you're in that business. We work with the large manufacturing companies through the area, Bay City, Saginaw, Midland area, all points north up to the bridge and beyond. We've got customers up in the eastern end of the UP and as far over as Lake Michigan and some of the fruit and agricultural business over there. So we cover a lot of ground. Go down as far as Detroit. Once we get to Detroit, there's quite a few folks like ourselves. So, you're limited on area of coverage. So, but yeah, we sell to everybody. We're not limited to just big manufacturers and big companies. We have a customer service walk-in area, and we have people lined up there through the course of the day, getting, as your ad mentioned, hydraulic hose. I'm thinking now, watching the rain come down, water and suction discharge hose. We sell that, and there's a lot of places that sell it, but we buy it by the bulk and 300-foot lengths, and we make it up to whatever length the customer may need. And with spring rains and the water runoff, we've got all the sizes that contractors or plumbing organizations or anybody that's got a water problem, we can probably help them out.
I love the one of your slogans. We have what you need to keep your business in business, but you're not just dealing with businesses, individuals too, farmers, right? I mean, you're pretty much across the board.
Well, everybody that walks in the door, I want to make it very clear, we are classified as a wholesaler. We buy from manufacturers around the country, and we ship it into our territory. But we're not limited to who we can sell to. We have a walk-in customer service entrance. We have contractors there, farmers, people of all walks and means. If they have a problem, we try to help them solve it with whatever it might be. It could be hose and fittings, as you and I have talked about, and you noticed when you toured our warehouse there, we've got a lot of inventory in that. But we also sell a lot of power transmission equipment, and again, that's a confusing term to a lot of people, but it's basically motors, electric motors of all sizes, shapes, and descriptions. They can be fractional all the way up to hundreds of horsepower, and every voltage and type that you could imagine. We all kind of live in an existence where we got 115 volt at our house, or maybe 230, 460 volt at our businesses, but there's lots of other voltages that we come across and have to deal with.
You're in Freeland. I got to let you go, Bill, because we're out of time, but you're in Freeland on M47, sure, just north of town. You do business across the state. The website, HammondEQP.com. Give me the phone number real quick, if you would, Bill.
989-695-2239. Please feel free to stop by wherever you're coming from.
And I hate to give out phone numbers. I did that just for you, Bill.
I appreciate that because we're a little old school, but people still have phones, Mike, and they still call us.
All right, Bill, welcome to the family. Thanks for your time. Bill Hammond of Hammond Drives and Equipment, HammondEQP.com. We'll take a break for the top of the hour, and when we come back, we're talking turkey. Season's just 2 weeks away with Greg Abbas of A-Way Outdoors, then Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives. You know the Avery 10 promo code? Well, there's some things coming up. I'll tell you about that.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Right here in the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I do firmly believe if you can The best way to listen to the show is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM affiliate. You got your local news, local weather, local sports. Hey, at least even your local commercials, your local ads, your local spots, as we call them. Maybe there's a sale or something going on you want to take advantage of. Plus, the broadcast stations get the content of the show before the podcast version is uploaded. Yep, there's a podcast of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. There's a podcast for everything these days, isn't there? I do like podcasting. But anyway, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show on my website. It's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear it on my Facebook page, on Amazon Music, on Audible, on Twitter, now called X. As I'm looking through the places you can hear the podcast, it's like everywhere, right? If there's a podcast outlet, you can hear the radio show there, the Outdoor Magazine, the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show there, including YouTube. I do like podcasting, though. As I say, I do podcasts for a few of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle. We're going to record an offshore podcast today when we're done here. Angler Quest, the new Angler Quest, Quest. And then also, we are reviving the Killer Food Plots podcast. We'll do a new one of those with Rich Krazan of Killer Food Plots next week. Regardless, though, of when you are hearing my voice, how you are hearing my voice, in what form, fashion, whatever, thank you. I would not be able to do this for so many years without your support, and it does mean a lot to me. You know what else means a lot to me? The people that I've met along the way. And you will not find a finer man than Greg Abbas of A-Way Outdoors. Their website, awayhunting.com, awayhunting.com. Greg has been around the outdoor scene for a long time as well. You know him as a six-time Michigan turkey calling champ, a turkey hunting guide for many years. Of course, they had the TV show where you got a chance to watch Greg and his dad, Fred, turkey hunt and whitetail hunt and hunting all across the globe. These days, Greg calls it semi-retirement, but I don't think he's ever going to retire because he's like me. He loves what he's doing. But he is a guy that I do like to turn to for hunting expertise. I tell you what, most of what I've learned outside of in the field, turkey hunting myself, most of what I've learned from other people turkey hunting has been from Greg Abbas, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to help us get ready for the upcoming season. Greg, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How about yourself, Mike?
I am doing wonderful. I can't believe that as people are hearing this radio show, turkey season's only 2 weeks away.
I know it. Exciting times.
It kind of, I think with the weird weather and stuff this year, maybe it kind of snuck up on me. And you know what, Greg, I got to be honest, as I'm out driving around, I still feel like maybe some of the birds are flocked up yet. What are you seeing?
They are breaking up now. There's still some flocked up, but I am seeing the smaller groups now.
Good.
And I've been watching them, especially this last week, and they're starting to do what they're supposed to.
Did turkeys ever do what they're supposed to?
Most of the time, no. You can't count on it, but but they are starting to break up and starting to expand their territories now.
For you, Greg, as a guy who's hunted birds for a long, long time, professionally and just for fun, what's the appeal of turkey hunting? Why do you like it?
Oh, gosh, there's not, in my opinion, not another hunting sport that is so interactive where you can use whatever technique that fits you and whatever your physical capabilities are. And you can go after these birds, and they'll accommodate you. So if you like the calling, and you like calling in animals and birds and having them respond, boy, there's nothing better than turkey hunting. And whether you want to run and gun, meaning go chase the gobble, or sit in a tent blind, again, whatever your style of hunting is, turkeys will accommodate you.
I appreciate what you say about what style you like. I'm one of those guys who likes to sit in a blind, set up a couple of decoys, and call them in and kind of wait them out. I'm pretty patient in that regard. You, though, for your years of guiding, if you would have had to rely on that completely, I don't think your success rate would have been as high. You spent a lot of time running and gunning, haven't you?
Oh, especially in public land where I've done most of my guiding, you have to run and gun. Well, I mean, you don't have to, but if you want a higher success rate, definitely. Yeah. Your initial setup, you can always do a tent blind, but after that initial setup, if it does not work, then we're out chasing.
All right, so let's talk about this initial setup for a minute. First thing in the morning, and I ask you this every year, you know, I understand the importance of finding where the birds are roosting, where they spent the night. How close do you set up to that roost in the morning?
I get no closer than 100, 125 yards. If I find the roost and I pattern them birds, they're going to follow the pattern 80% of the time. If I do find the roost, I feel confident that I am going to get a bird out of there. But I don't want to set up too close to the roost. Yes, you can get them when they fly down and you know, probably have a shot at them, but then you've just ruined it. You know, if you're going to hunt more or other people in your group are going to hunt, you've probably ruined it for maybe the rest of the season and maybe for years to come. I'd like them birds to be very comfortable at that roost because they chose it, they feel safe there. And if I blow my hunt 100, 125 yards from their roost, they're not going to think nothing of it. They'll come back and they'll roost there the same night. But if you bump them from there, you may not see them. You know, on public land when I guided, that was the big thing, was locating the roost, because I can go back every single year and feel very confident that there's going to be birds roosted there every year.
Wow.
And I can employ the same tactics every year and be successful.
Well, when you said if I can find the roost, I've got a good chance of getting a bird out of there. That's a pretty strong statement, but you can back it up, Greg. You've got the numbers, the credentials, the experience, the number of hunters to prove it.
I'd say 80 to 90% chance I'm going to get that bird. That's how confident I am. They are creatures of habit. They usually follow the same routine day after day after day unless they're disturbed. And they're going to fly down from the roost. They're going to go in a certain direction, probably following the hen, and she's probably heading toward a food source. So if you're on public land and they like walking a certain trail or a certain ridge top, they're most likely going to do that every day. So you need to plan your setup accordingly. Get in their path.
So will you call to birds on the roost once they start talking in the morning, or do you wait till they fly down?
No, I'll talk maybe once or twice. I don't want to carry on a conversation. I definitely don't. But I'll be set up in the direction that I know that they want to be. And I will, once they gobble first, I let them initiate the calling. And once they talk first, then I'll let out a tree yelp, which, I'll make a soft one here on a slate call. And he'll answer me, and I'll put the call down and wait about 20 minutes, and usually he'll be on the ground by then, and typically I don't have to call anymore, but if I do, it's going to be nothing more than maybe just a few contentment purrs, and I really like the push button call when they're on the ground if I have to do any more calling at that close range, because the push button with the volume control, which is our turkey trooper, by the way, you can make the call directional. And I don't care how many years you've been hunting and how skilled you are as a caller. I know that a lot of these people, including myself, can get pretty fancy on just about any turkey call out there, but you got to realize which call is best for which situation. And the push button call is the best for 100 yards and in, and we've proven that during our turkey call experiments during our Turkey Tech University, the full-day outdoor course where we do our experiments. But the nice thing about that little push button, don't set it aside because you think your skill level's much above that. There's nothing better than throwing your voice further away from you, making that bird think you're another 75 to 100 yards past your position. That way he's coming through you. He's not even thinking about putting on the brakes yet, and you've already shot him. That little push button call, in my opinion, is the best 100 yards and in call to close the deal.
Listen, Greg, I want to hear that, but hang tight. We've got to take a break here. We're talking to Greg Abbas of A-Way Outdoors, the website awayhunting.com, awayhunting.com. When you talk about calling turkeys, talking turkey, Greg is right at the top of the list. But we do have to take a break. When we come back, though, I want to talk to Greg about what role does calling play. You know, how much should you call? And I know this for a fact for myself. It is easy to overcall. You know why? Because it's so much fun. When you reach out to a bird and it responds, you want to call back. And then he'll respond again. And you want to call back. And it's easy to get carried away and do too much calling. Well, I'm going to ask Greg, how much should you call? When should you call? How should you call? What about setups? What about decoys? All that and more after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. And boy, now is the time to start getting ready. I don't care what the weather looks like right now as you look out the window. It's going to change. It's going to get nice. And you're going to want the folks from Reader to come in and do your springtime cleanup. You're going to want them to come in and open your sprinkler systems, your water features. You're going to want to get on their schedule for your landscaping projects for this summer, this spring and summer. And you can do all of that on the website, readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. Remember, every hour the Reader folks spend at your property, your lawn, your property, is another hour or more you can spend out on the water or in the woods. So that alone is reason enough to do that, right? Right now, though, we're talking with Greg Abbas of A-Way Outdoors. awayhunting.com is the website. Greg, how many different... okay, so when I say types of calls, I realize there are two different things we're talking about. We're talking about the physical form of the call that you make the sound with and then the sound that it makes. But the physical form, like slate, push button, all that, how many different types of calls are there from that perspective?
Oh boy, there's a lot. But you don't need them all, but you will end up with them all eventually.
That's
if you
a good
stay
point.
in the sport. Yeah, kind of like fishing lures, you know. But and guys will always brag, no, I just use the mouth call, and that's because they're efficient at it and they have the most confidence. You know, they work the hardest with that one. And no matter which one you're the most efficient at, that should probably be the first one that you should use.
Right.
The one you're going to make the least amount of mistakes on. But I always recommend to a new turkey hunter, get one at least one that's mid to long range and one that's mid to short range. If you have those two, you can get the job done.
And what about how often you call? Because I mentioned before the break, it is so easy to overcall, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely. And as you mentioned, it's because, you know, you're excited. That bird's answering you, and you go, oh, wow, this is cool. And, you know, you just keep calling. He keeps answering. You call, he answers. But, you know, there's going to come a point where he's going to get 80 to 100 yards away, and you keep doing that. He's going to hang up out of gun range, and he's going to end up doing a big, wide circle around you because he's pinpointed where he thinks that hen should be, and he doesn't see her. And he gets very suspicious quick. He thinks everything in the woods wants to eat him, and he's right. So he gets very suspicious. He does this big arc around you, and he keeps going, and you go, man, what the heck happened? And when I bring that up during my seminars, I tell people, you know, this has probably happened to you. If it hasn't, it probably will.
Yeah.
You know, less calling is better. You're going to win or lose that bird at the 100-yard mark. You will bring them up to 100 yards easily. Using a box call, you know, long range, or a mouth call, long range. But 100 yards and in, you're going to win or lose him. If he's coming at that 100-yard mark, let him keep coming. Don't keep calling. Let him guess where you're at. And my favorite call, again, is that little push-button call with the volume control. When I give a seminar, I'll run an experiment, and I'll point the call at the crowd. I'll put it on a low-volume setting, and I'll ask the people in the far back, "Can you hear that?" And usually they'll nod yes. I'll point the call behind me and do it again, away from the crowd. And "Can you hear that?" And a lot of them will shake their head no. That's exactly what you want to do to that turkey. What we're doing is throwing our voice. If you make him believe that you are another 75 to 100 yards further, as I mentioned earlier, he's going to be walking in thinking he's got further to go when you've taken your shot. He didn't even think about putting on the brakes yet. He didn't even think about getting suspicious. Just like when he started off maybe 200 yards away and you called him up to 100 yards pretty quick, as long as you make him think he's got further to go, you're going to have a good chance of getting that bird.
When I look at the video of turkey calling competitions, I mean, people get just crazy nuts. What calls am I going to look for? And I want to hear some sounds again, demonstrations again. In addition to that tree yelp that you were talking about in the morning, Greg, what else do we need to know how to do?
You want to master the yelp, no matter what call you're on. I'm going to demonstrate on this little push button call. You want to master the yelp. That's an "I love you" type sound to that turkey. It's a good one to make contact with. As he starts coming in, then again, I'm going to put this little push button on a low volume setting, and I'm going to do purrs. Purr is a feeding call. It's a contentment sound. And if I need to make any sound whatsoever when he's within that 100 yards, I'm going to do that sound. And a push button call does that excellent. It's hard to do on any other call, but it's easy to do on this push button with only one finger movement. I also like cutting when the bird's in the distance. I combine cuts and yelps, and I'll do that on a box call. And that's a very excited sound of a hen turkey. And that really gets that bird fired up when he's in the distance, or if I'm running and gunning and calling down into river bottoms. That's the sound I'm making. That's a long-range call that gets him pumped up. But again, as he starts coming in, I tone it down. I call less. I call softer. When he reaches a 100-yard mark, push-button call takes over.
And we're talking right now about birds who are responding to you, birds that are talking that morning. Those are the fun birds. Those are the easier birds. What about those days when they just won't talk?
That's where your scouting comes into play. And if you scouted where they're roosted and you know what direction they go when they get off the roost, especially you get a windy, rainy day, which is quite frequently in the spring, they're not going to talk. They might do one gobble from the roost, or they may do none. But they're still going to follow that same pattern. And that's where you doing a little homework before your hunt is going to pay off. Also knowing what time of day where birds are going to be will come into play, and that's where scouting comes in. And it's great to get out in the spring. I mean, who doesn't love getting out into God's creation and enjoying a day in the woods? So, get out there and do some scouting, look for the tracks, the droppings, try to locate that roost. And but typically you get a rainy day. If you have access to a farm field, that's where they're going to head. They love spending the whole day out in the farm field if it's just a steady rain, not a crazy one with a lot of wind. They don't like wind. But you get just a steady drizzle, they're going to be out in that farm field all day. So that's a good place to find them. Middle of the day when the sun is up and it's hot, they have dark feathers and they don't want to get too hot, so they go down into the river bottoms and the edges of swamps, and that's where you could find them. And there should be dusting bowls along those edges. You stick a decoy in there, and at some point they're going to come by those dusting bowls. You give out a few calls, late morning, early afternoon, passive calling, and they're going to come there about every day to the dusting bowl. And if you're patient, you will get one there.
Oh, Greg, you have turned me into a firm believer in dusting bowls. Yes, midday, hot, springtime days, patience If you wait long enough, I agree with you 100%. But I learned that from you. I never would have thought of that before.
Well, that's one of the most overlooked signs is a dusting bowl. A lot of people walk by and they see that pit in the ground in the sand, and some people don't know what it is, and they just walk by it. Other people do notice, it's a dusting bowl, but they don't take it to the next level and think, what time of day is that bird hitting this? Why would I not be able to sit here and get one of these birds coming to it? And it's usually late morning and early afternoon when they dust. You
mentioned putting a decoy in that dusting bowl area. What about other setups? Do you routinely use deeks?
I use decoys all the time. Now, here's the catch, though, and this took me 25 years as a guy to learn, because you've probably seen a lot of mixed results with decoys. You've probably seen them come straight to them and commit suicide. You've probably seen other times where they see your decoy spread and they run in the other direction, or they totally ignore them.
Yep.
I've seen it all. The thing is, when should you use the Jake or gobbler decoy? It's not every hunt. I will use 2 hen decoys every hunt, and I make a V formation as my setup with the 2 hens facing me. If I think a gobbler is going to come from the north, for example, I'll have the hens facing out in that direction toward the north, or creating a V, but they are facing me. So when that gobbler comes from the north heading south, he should see their back ends, thinking that they're walking away from him. So he's more in a hurry to get out in front and show off. The direction of your decoy matters, and that took me a long time to learn. And if you have it hodgepodge or they're facing him, he might think, they're already walking to me. I'm going to stay out here 75 yards away and look pretty and strut and gobble and attract them. And when they don't come in, he gets suspicious. So you want those decoys, if you can, walking away from him. And he's going to be in more of a hurry to show off and get out in front of them so he could strut and do his thing. So direction matters. Now, the Jake decoy, I will only use that if I'm hunting a dominant tom that I've seen out in the farm field with other toms. I know he's the man. He's had to fight to get that status, and he's willing to fight any oncomer. And that's when I'll pull out the Jake decoy, and I'll put a hen on the ground with a short stake that I've made out of a wooden dowel or a branch, and I'll put the Jake just over her tail feathers, just offset of them, to make it look like he's mounting her. That dominant tom comes onto the field and sees somebody with his wife, he's going to be upset.
Oh, Greg, just hearing you talk has me so excited. I just absolutely can't wait. There's nothing like turkey hunting. Like, here in the woods, wake up in the morning and that first gobble, and if you don't have any success, you're using the different techniques you're talking about, the midday dusting bowls, putting them to bed at night. It's just, I absolutely love it, and I have you to thank in large part for that, Greg Abbas. So thank you, my friend, for getting me turned on and hooked on turkey hunting.
Well, thank you, Mike, and glad you enjoy that turkey sport. It's addicting.
It certainly is addictive. Greg Abbas of A-Way Outdoors, the website awayhunting.com is awayhunting.com. Check it out for Greg's turkey techniques, his gems that he's into now, and much more. Oh, and his invention consulting as well. Greg is a very interesting, well-versed guy, and he's a great guest here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ, 97.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the company that is responsible for making this sound. Again, you want to hear it again? Because I do. You know what that sound is by now, don't you? I just pulled my Rapid River knife out of my pocket, where it is always, and I locked it back open, and I'm looking at it as a thing of beauty. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com. Now, about this time, I would normally say, if you go to the website, you can use the promo code Avery10 and get 10% off. Or if you go to the store on US 2 just east of Rapid River, you can use the promo code Avery10 and get 10% off. But, I was looking at the website the other day, rapidriverknifeworks.com, and I saw something that said, first-time customers get 10% off. And I went, hey, hold on here a second. So I called my good friend, Chris Durson, the man behind Rapid River, and I said, Chris, I would like my listeners to get something special, not something everybody else can get. And he said, listen, I got an idea. And Chris is actually with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line now. Chris, welcome back. We talked to you just a couple of weeks ago, but it seemed like a good time to bring you back on now. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing good, but man, this weather this last week has been something, hasn't it?
It's been crazy, and I'm driving through a blizzard right now.
When's it going to end, Chris?
I don't know. I just got back from Mexico. I want to go back.
I don't blame you. All right, so Chris, this Avery 10 promo code that we've been doing for a while now has been very successful, right? A lot of people are using it.
Very successful. We get orders that come through daily.
So
with the Avery 10 discount.
So when I said I would like something special for my listeners above and beyond what anybody else can get, you said, okay, let's do it. What do you want to do, Chris?
We're going to do Avery 15.
Avery 15. I like it.
Yeah, we're going to do Avery 15. We're all set up and ready to go. So if you get right now is a great time to use it because we're getting ready to draw our bear hunt giveaway winner April 15th. So you're going to get 15% off your order and triple the entries into the contest.
Oh, nice. So if you go to rapidriverknifeworks.com, and use the new promo code Avery15, you'll now get 15% off your order. Plus, you'll get entered into that big Idaho bear hunt giveaway that's coming up. Drawing is what, April 15th, you said?
Yeah, April 15th.
Now, Chris, if I walk into the store, which is an absolute destination, we've talked about this before, can I walk into the store and say, hey, I'd like to use that promo code Avery15? Will it still work?
Yeah, absolutely. We do it all the time.
Well, I have recently expanded my Rapid River collection, which a lot of people do. I have that original, that woolly mammoth that you made for me a couple of years ago. That's beautiful. I've got the smallest version. I've got the medium-sized version now. I think I've got kind of an addiction, and it's a Rapid River knife addiction, and I think a lot of people do the same. You see people collecting your knives, don't you?
Oh, definitely. I know a lot of people that have between 50 and 100 of our knives.
Oh, geez. Oh, geez.
Since we've refurbish them and sharpen and polish them free for life, some people bring them in a duffel bag.
With my last knife I ordered, I said, Sue, will you throw in one of those little sharpeners? And that thing, I got to tell you, well, you know this, but that thing is pretty sweet, Chris.
They are. They're amazing. I mean, knife sharpening is an art. And using a whetstone is an art. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of time. This little knife sharpener, it's got 2 carbides in it, and you put it on the fish hook sharpener on the edge of a table and lay the blade in it and just draw it straight through. It's easy. The main thing in sharpening a knife is getting the angle the same on both sides. So, and this does that. You can't mess it up.
Excellent. Again, so we've got a week and a half or so till you're going to draw that Idaho bear hunt giveaway. Give me some more details. Remind me about that, Chris.
So we're going to pick one winner and fly them out to Riggins, Idaho, actually to Boise, and then we're all going to drive up into the Seven Devils range of the Rocky Mountains. And we're going to hunt color-phased black bears for a week.
Is this
we're going to pay for everything.
A spot and stalk or a bait hunt or what, Chris?
Yeah, this is a bait hunt. I like the spot and stalks, but with giving away a hunt, that's extremely physically demanding terrain out there.
Sure.
So it's kind of hard. I mean, it's not for everyone, the walking. So this is a bait hunt. It's not going to be extremely easy, I can tell you that. But it's going to be a great time. So the winner's also they're going to get the hunt. They're going to get the airfare. They're also going to get a $1,500 gift card from Jay's Sporting Goods to get ready for gear and that kind of stuff for the hunt. And so yeah, it's about a $10,000 hunt.
Nice. And there's still time to get involved. Go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. And don't forget to use the new promo code Avery15, Avery15, and get 15%, not 10, but 15% off your order in the showroom or on the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. Thanks, Chris. We'll talk again soon. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery question. And then in hour number 3, we're going to talk to Nick DeShano of Offshore Tackle. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. You can hear us in Taos on WIOS. It's 1480 AM and 106.9 FM. In fact, you can hear us twice each weekend in Taos on WIOS. Thank you, folks. I appreciate that. You can also hear us north of the bridge, this time in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM, 93.5 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And I get a big thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for really stepping up and becoming a major sponsor of the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing to benefit MUCC's Youth Camp. That's coming up Friday, July 25th. To sign up for that, go to mucc.org/golf. Okay, the way the Ask Avery segment works, and you know this by now, it's just a reminder. This is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. Maybe it's a question you want me to answer directly, if I can. If not, I'll pass it along to somebody else. The best way to get these questions, is to send me an email. People are oftentimes want to send them to me in a social media message. And I'll tell you right now, you're taking your chances by doing that, because I get kind of overwhelmed by social media messages. Sometimes I see them, sometimes I don't. So send me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Now, having said that, that's not how this week's Ask Avery segment came about. It came about by something I saw with my own eyes. In fact, you've seen it too. Maybe it's registered with you, maybe it hasn't. But a few weeks ago, I was driving from the Bay City area down through Lansing over to Grand Rapids. And especially that route from Lansing over to Grand Rapids, I was really, the number of deer hunting blinds right along the freeway really got my attention. I know that there is a safety zone around occupied dwellings. It's 150 yards, 450 feet, where you have to have permission to be inside that safety zone. And if you don't have permission, you got to be outside there. It's a safety zone, it just as the name implies. So I'm thinking, all right, well, if there's a safety zone around occupied dwellings, what about all these blinds that are really, literally, right along the freeway? You know how on the freeway there's a fence usually on the sides, and these blinds are right up against that fence. So I sent a text to Sergeant Mark Depew of the DNR. I said, hey, morning, Sarge. I was driving, I'm reiterating here, driving from Flint to Grand Rapids the other day, and I was shocked at the number of blinds within a few yards of the freeway. What's the law on that? It's sure not an occupied dwelling, so the safety zone doesn't apply, or does it? Well, the sergeant says there is no safety zone. As long as they're on their own property, they are good to go. Okay. I said, thank you, Sarge. A quick follow-up question then. What about state land? Because as long as they're on their own property, they are good to go. I said, well, what about state land, public land? He said, well, they can't be in the right-of-way or in the median area either, but outside of that, basically, they're good to go. You know, for example, on I-75, they could be right up along the fence. So there's your answer. Now, there's the answer, right? It is legal, and that's why you see so many blinds right up against the freeway with their back against the freeway, right? Obviously, because they can't shoot towards the freeway. But why would somebody want to set up there? Well, I can think of a couple of reasons, right? Number one, the sound from the freeway is going to be, you can use that to your advantage. It can cover a lot of your noise getting into the blind or out of the blind or any noise you might make in the blind, right? Also, and you've seen this before, I have, deer tend to be, a lot of times they think they're safe walking along the freeway because they don't normally get hunted there. So they might let their guard down a little bit. But as long as you are, not on the freeway itself, you can go ahead and hunt there. I thought that was interesting. I'm not sure I would want to, though. I mean, sometimes part of the appeal of deer hunting is getting out, getting away from things, right? Getting away from the noise of the freeway, getting away from the traffic. So I'm not sure it would be my preferred setup. However, if that's where you own property, that's where you're going to hunt, right? So that is what it is. And anyway, so that one came about as a result of my curiosity and wondering what you could do and what you couldn't. If you have a question for me, or if you have a question regarding hunting or fishing laws, because I realize they can be, what's the right word to use? They can be I'll say confusing, but sometimes much more than that. And I always look at it. If you spend enough time in the outdoors hunting or fishing, you will sometime unintentionally violate a fish or game law. It's like driving. If you spend enough time behind the wheel, honestly, you're going to break a law, right? You're going to speed a little bit. You're going to be a few miles over the speed limit. You're going to not come to a complete stop, whatever. You didn't intentionally go out and say, I'm going to break a law today. It just kind of happened. Same thing happens with fish and game laws. Anyway, thank you, Security Credit Union, for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We will take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third and final hour, we're going to talk about springtime fishing, specifically trolling. Great way to cover water, great way to catch fish. If you're going to talk trolling in Michigan, you might want to talk offshore tackle, and you might want to talk the DeShano family. And guess what? Nick DeShano of Offshore Tackle will be joining me after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. And as always, so glad to have you along with us. We were talking in the previous hour about turkey hunting. I absolutely love to turkey hunt. It's one of my favorite things to do in the outdoors. Turkey hunting, bear hunting, and walleye fishing. Those are the things that really get me excited. Turkey season coming up. I'm pretty excited about it. And then walleye fishing out on Saginaw Bay. Get the Angler Quest out there and do some walleye trolling for walleye. I can't wait. Now, as I look out the window right now, the weather's pretty rotten out there. Maybe it's going to be a little bit before I can get out there, but I am excited for it. And when I'm trolling, and that is my favorite way to fish. I consider myself a troller. Is it wonderful to have the rod in your hand, like jigging the river for walleye or ice fishing? The one time I went out there this year, it is nice to have the rod in your hand when a fish hits, but there's nothing like trolling. Why do I like to troll? Oh, man, there are so many reasons. You can cover a lot of water. You can seek out active fish. You can find fish. You're not stuck in one spot. You can experiment with different presentations as far as colors and speeds and depth. It is a great way to introduce people to fishing. Like, for example, you put those offshore OR-12 boards out there with a tattle flag on them. I love those things to get people who are new to fishing because they fixate on those boards and they're watching that flag. Flag goes down, we got a fish. I love that. Sometimes people say, well, trolling is a lazy man's way to fish. It can be. Honestly, I got a couple of buddies who, when we go out there, we throw boards out, we put our feet up, and we just sit back and relax and shoot the breeze, and if we catch fish, fine. So, yeah, it can be a lazy man's way to fish. But if you're doing it right, if you're changing things, if you're moving things, if you're adjusting things, it is far from a lazy man's way to fish. But it is an effective way to fish. Now, I mentioned offshore a couple times here. I think if you are a troller here in the Great Lakes, you probably use some offshore tackle products, and if not, you should take a serious look at them. Family-owned, Michigan-based, I love that. And the family behind offshore tackle is the DeShano family. Nick DeShano is the guy at the helm these days, the guy who's running the company, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mike, other than these big, giant white snowflakes falling off the window.
It's Mother Nature. We must have done something to make her mad because she's showing us her wrath this last week or so.
Yeah. Well, it's that, they always tease us. We think, the spring's here and it's going to be nice, and we get everything out, and then we got that one last reminder that there's still a little bit of winter left in it. So luckily, we're down farther south, so luckily we didn't get hit with the ice as bad as they did up north. But, it's been a crazy week.
So you're telling me, you're promising me this is the last gasp of winter? Is that what you're saying?
I wish. If I would say that would guarantee us snow for a month.
Yeah, that's true. Nick, tell me about offshore. Tell me the story of how your company came to be.
Story. Well, it started about my dad worked at Detroit Edison, and he started coming up here charter fishing about, as a charter captain about Port Austin, probably the late 70s. Or shortly, I was born in 75, so shortly after that. He come up here and started charter fishing and got transferred up to Harbor Beach, so we bought a house up there and then moved to Port Austin, and we build just the original first part was just a regional, the alligator-style downrigger releases. And I remember gluing pads into these little metal clips sitting at home. We had a board laid out on our lap and glue pads in them and make our own releases. And he had a little tackle store down there. He started out mainly because charter captains all got together and says, well, hey, if we put a tackle store together, we can get tackle a little cheaper too. So they started doing that. And then we met a gentleman by the name of Byron Shaw, and he come along and helped us developed the OR1. He says, well, how about we make these out of plastic, and we can design it just for release instead of, adapting these electrical parts to use as a downrigger release. And the rest is, as they say, history. They started out with the OR1 and downrigger releases, and by 92, we started working with Mark Romanek and Keith Parsons and Keith Cavallis and Gary Parsons and a bunch of other guys, and we started putting the planer board together, and that's about when the planer board started. So it's been a long time. It's been interesting. I can remember, like I said, pretty much my whole life we've been involved in it. So I've been able to see it go from the ground up, and it's been a pretty neat ride, and hopefully we can keep this going for quite a while longer.
Well, you talk about a guy who knows a business inside and out. Then, every aspect of this, from selling and marketing to making these things piece by piece in the living room.
Yeah, we've done it all. We're still doing it. I got parts in my basement that I put together at night, and we're still doing stuff. It's you know, people think we're a lot bigger company than we are, and we're still, I mean, pretty much still stuck to our, you know, our roots for better or for worse of the old, just a small company, you know, family owned and operated, and we've got people here and that work with us, and we've had some great employees that work their butt off for us, and keep it going and keep making great products here in the USA.
Well, you feel like a much bigger company. Is that because of the folks you've partnered with along the way that have gotten your name out there?
Yeah, you know, when we started out, between yourself, as far back as I can remember, you're probably the first guy that was like, you're still doing the TV5 stuff and things like that. And then I'm trying to think. I don't know if we met Mark through you or how we got hooked up with Mark Romanek, and he got us along, and just the people along the way. I mean, and timing was perfect. You know, Dad was fired up to get this going, and still, you know, hardcore into fishing and tournaments. He was doing salmon tournaments, and then with the planer board, he decided to start doing, you know, work on the walleye tournaments, and just the people we met along the way, and how the PWT and all that stuff was going, and we just got a huge support out there, and just some great people out there supporting us.
So you started out with the one company. How many SKUs are there today in the offshore catalog?
Oh, exact number?
Well, roughly.
Still not a ton, considering how old we are. I'm trying to think, probably 20, 25 products, maybe.
Okay. So but all of them, all of them trolling related, right? You are a trolling company. Yeah. I mean, we got the crankbait tuner.
So that's probably the only thing we have that you really don't need a boat for your casting crankbaits or whatever from shore, or just casting, you know, that can still come in handy for you. Pretty much everything else is predominantly trolling. That's what we've done. That's most of the stuff that Dad's done, and I've grown up trolling, and, you know, I'm a troller, and I love to troll. It's a good social avenue of fishing. You know, the live scoping's fun. I've done it a little bit, and it's neat to see the jig and, you know, watch the fish go after it and all that. But you're so focused on the screen, so it's you and, you know, and you're a couple people so focused on the screen. There's really not any social, just conversation and storytelling and joking around or anything like that. Whereas trolling, you can set some lines, and everybody can fish, whether they've fished before or not. And I just like being able to sit back and visit and tell stories and catch a lot of fish too in the meantime.
That's a good point. That's one thing I forgot to mention about, you know, trolling, the benefits of it. It is social. You can have a conversation while you're out there. You can shoot the breeze. You can rib your buddies, and it is just a lot of fun. But it's probably one of the most effective ways to catch fish here in the Great Lakes too, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and you look at the bodies of water we have. It's such wide open bodies of water between the main lakes, and so the fish are scattered around different. You know, they're suspended. They're deep water stuff. It's not like you get down into a reservoir somewhere where it's, you know, fairly shallow, where the fish are concentrated in little fingers and points and brush piles and stuff like that. So with the open water fish, I mean, trolling is still the most efficient way to go, for sure.
We're talking with Nick DeShano of Offshore Tackle, the website offshoretackle.com. That's offshoretackle.com. Got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show, but believe me, there's a lot more to talk about with Nick, and I will do just that. By the way, Nick and his dad, I think, Bruce, the guy who is the chairman of the boards when it comes to Offshore Tackle, I think they're both going to be able to join us for our Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant coming up the Wednesday after Easter. That's Wednesday, April 23rd. If you would like to join us, we still, as of sitting here in the studio right now, we still have a few seats available. Call 989-343-0892 for a reservation, 989-343-0892. If nobody answers, leave a message. Tell them what your name is, how many in your party. what the phone number is so we can confirm that you will indeed be there, because they will call you back before the event. This is going to sell out. Love to have you there, along with Bruce and Nick DeShano of Offshore Tackle. OffshoreTackle.com is the website. We'll take a break. More coming up. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, that's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Truck Trolley. Michigan-based, family-owned. You know I love that. Why? When you need to get into the bed of your truck, you know, you could jump up there, right? But listen, it's not always easy. Maybe it's wet. Maybe it's slippery. Maybe it's icy. Maybe you got big boots on. Maybe you're not as young as you used to be. Or you can do what I used to do. I had what my son used to call the old man hook. I had a broomstick with a hook on the end of it. I'd reach up to the front of the bed, and I'd reach in there and snake it around and grab it and pull stuff out. Not anymore. Now that I got a truck trolley in the back of the truck, it's easy to access anything in the bed of your truck. It is a, how do I describe this? It's not permanent. It's not bolted to your truck at all. It's just strapped in there. It's a heavy-duty plastic, and by plastic I mean something that's going to hold a lot of work, a lot of weight. And you can slide this thing out. So I don't care what you've got in there, whether it's hunting and fishing supplies, whether it's groceries, whether it's landscaping supplies. It's easy to get to. Check them out. The website is trucktrolley.com. That's trucktrolley.com. It is a family-owned operation. It is a Michigan-based operation, and their products are made right here in Michigan. You know I love that. Now, speaking of that, family-owned, Michigan-based products made in our country, that also describes Offshore Tackle. Now, Truck Trolley is a new company. Offshore has been around for a long, long time. And, Nick, over the years, you could have easily saved yourself a few bucks and taken the manufacturing of your products overseas, but you decided not to. Why is that?
Well, to be honest, it's probably a bad business decision as far as profit-wise. But you know, we've always been wanting to be the highest quality of stuff we can get out there, and we want to be able to keep things made here in the USA. There's so many things going, and there's not many small companies left of anything. And the fishing industry, they're shrinking more and more, and there's just not many left. And you know, I really like being able to, an hour and a half, I'm at the plastics company where they're shooting our boards. Again, pretty much, you know, the vast majority of our stuff is right here in Michigan. You know, I can mile away from the house. I can go and see where see where they're building the boards and talk to the people. And there's just a thing we've been proud of for a long time. And you know, there's something to be said for made in USA still. I mean, you can get things cheaper, but usually when you get things cheaper, that's exactly what it is. It's just cheaper. So, you know, from day one, we've always decided we're going to build the highest quality product we can and charge what we have to charge for it. You know, I mean, that's the main thing out there. And, you know, and nice thing now is we're not going to have any extra tariffs on our stuff. So.
And there are probably still boards out from this first generation of boards you guys made years ago. I've got boards that, you know, I'll be honest with you, Nick, I don't baby them. I'm pretty tough on them. I throw them around the boat. If I get a fish on, I might throw them on the floor. They might even get stepped on. But the way your boards are made, they're made so you can upgrade them. You can fix, you know, you can put new replacement parts on them, and they're just darn hard to break. So, you know, the extra few bucks I don't think is a big deal.
Yeah, well, and that's it. They're going to last you a long time. I mean, unless you just lose it. Most of the time, you know, we've got, you can get all the replacement parts on our website. Typically, if you see one of us around or pro staffers, a lot of our pro staff carries repair kits that have extra foam and flags, and we don't replace releases, but foam, flags, brackets, tabs, that kind of stuff we can replace. And a lot of times I'll go to different clubs and they'll do an event where it's a board repair thing, and they can refurbish your boards, and they just keep on trucking. They're built good, strong materials, and the bracket you're really. I think I've seen one break, and I forget how that even happened. I think that might have been an issue with the plastic, but for the most part, we've run them over and flattened them out, and they just can't hurt the thing. So
it's a good thing. So if I go to the store now, say if I go to Jay's Sporting Goods and I buy an Offshore OR12 board, which is kind of the thing that I think you guys are most known for, how different is that, or similar to a board that I might have been on the market 30 years ago? Have things changed that much, or is it just a good, solid design that you've basically stuck with?
The basic board is the same. We've done little things over the past, from adding the holes in the front of it for the tattle flag kit. We've taken out the little we used to have where the weight was at. There was a little divider there that was to help keep the weight in the right place. But we've taken that out, so now we figured out when we take that out, you can flip the weight around easy enough, and you don't have to drill any extra holes or anything, and you can have the weight all the way forward. So if you're pulling the heavy 10 colors of lead or 300 copper with it, you can flip that weight around to the front, and it keeps the nose down a little bit. But if you do that, just make sure you flip it the other way when you run something lighter. It's liable to take off on you. But yeah, that's for the most part. Anything, if you have a board that was your very first original board with foam and all that just fits the same, the brackets they fit the same, so you can update any of your old boards to pretty much exactly how they come out of the package nowadays.
As I said earlier, I love that tattle flag. And for folks who don't know what this is it's basically a flag that attaches to the board that is mounted on a spring, where if you get a weed on there or a fish, the flag will bounce back or tilt back towards the back of the board. I love them because people love to watch them, especially people who can't read boards as much as somebody who's out there day in and day out. How did this tattle flag come about, Nick?
There was, back when we fished the Michigan Walleye Tour, there was a guy named Mike Victor, and he had a flag design it was actually the opposite. We would push it in the back of the board, and then when a fish struck, it would pull the pin out, and this flag would pop up. And it was a really cool idea, and it was a nice, it definitely got us thinking about using the flag as a strike indicator. It's the only issue with that setup was when you would get a bite or a wave and it pulled too hard, the flag would pop up. You'd have to bring it in and reset it. So we started looking at different ways of doing it, and then we decided, well, how about we make the flag so it pulls down when there's a fish on it. So now it's just the weight. There's a spring. You can change the tension in the spring on how far you stretch the spring out, and there's holes in the board. And then there's holes in the flag that go up the shaft of the flag that you can really. I've pulled 150 feet of copper and still have the tattle flag stay up. So you can pull some pretty good weight now with the tattle flag set up like that. And now we just kind of refined it along the way. And last few years ago, we come out with we had a real thin wire that we would bend and put a bead on, and then we had a thicker wire made. It's a little sturdier, and it doesn't need a bead or anything like that, so it just made it run a little smoother. So we do a lot of just a little minor things along the way as we see an issue with something, or somebody says, "Hey, how come we can't do this?" Or I'd like to do that with the board. We just kind of change it as it goes along. It just kind of evolves.
And, of course, it's not just boards that you guys make. You make releases, as you say, but you also make inline trolling weights like the guppies, and then the I got a mental block. The black one, help me out.
The tadpole.
Tadpole, yep. Yeah. So why would you need those? How would you use those, Nick?
Well, the guppy weights we use as they originally started out, we would use them with the crawler harnesses. So you'd have, say you have 6 rods out or 4 rods, you'd put 4 different weights out, the same amount. We use what we called the 50-50 system, So you put 50 feet of line out, clip a weight on it, and put 50 more feet out and clamp it in the board. And now that would stay the same. You would just vary the weights, and that would change the depth. That changes the depth in the water column of where your bait's running. So you'd run them out, and then you run, say you're catching fish on a 3/4 ounce weight. So that tells you, okay, well, the fish are a little higher, so you just bring them up, and it kind of searches the water a little more. Whereas our tadpole is better if you want to pinpoint a depth. If you say, I want to fish 12 foot down, the tadpole, you can look at the precision trolling chart, and it'll tell you, okay, you got to put X amount of line out at this speed, and that'll get you 12 foot down. And since it has that diving capability instead of just a heavy weight that makes it dive, it gives it a lot better, more accurate dive curve like a crankbait would, as opposed to just a weight that goes up and down as you slow down or speed up and things. And precision trolling data, they're coming out with some really, once they're working on completely redoing the apps. And as soon as the new update apps come out, they're going to have what's called, there's actually an article in our paper about it, but it's called the 50 plus 3T. So right now they're doing the 50 plus 2 method. So it's 50 feet of line out in the 2 ounce weight, and then with a crankbait, and they've got different crankbaits have their own charts. So now you know exactly if you want to get a flicker shad down 35 feet, you clip this 2 ounce weight, put the flicker shad out 50 feet, clip the 2 ounce weight on it, and then read the chart. So if the chart says 75 feet, you put it out another 25 feet, and that'll get you your depth.
Wow.
And now they've done the same thing with the number 3 tadpole, and especially the deeper water fishermen are out in eastern basin Erie, where they're fishing deep down close to the bottom with these heavy stuff. They're getting some really interesting good dive data with that number 3 tadpole, getting those crankbaits real deep.
Nick, that'll
be fun.
Well, that precision trolling app is just crazy, and to think that they're going to improve that even more is very impressive. But here's something I ask you almost every time we talk, and you know what's coming. You guys are, even after 40 years or so, you're not sitting back on your laurels. You're always innovating, and you're looking for new things. Is there anything new in the works at Offshore right now that you can talk about?
Yeah, we've got a couple things coming on. Nothing I want to talk about. We got to keep the Chinese. Well, we got to keep these Chinese knockoff people on their heels, so we can't give anything out. And
I was
hoping
make
them work for it a little bit.
I was hoping I was going to slip that by, and you were going to drop your guard. So here's what it is. I get it, Nick. I get it. All right, Nick. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
You and I will talk again soon, and I look forward to seeing you and hopefully your dad, Bruce, at our Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack coming up April 23rd. In the meantime, I'll send people to the website, offshoretackle.com. Offshoretackle.com, the DeShano family. Good people. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sandusky on WMIC. That's 660 AM, 95.3 FM. You can also hear us on another combo station, WSGW in Saginaw, at 790 AM, 100.5 FM. You know this by now, but I'm in the studios of WSGW each week to record the show. Now, we record the show midweek. That's our standard recording schedule. Now, we do that to ensure that the behind-the-scenes work, a little bit of minor editing, but mostly uploading and distribution, we can get it up on the satellite in time so our affiliates can download it. But anyway, I'm here in the studios of WSGW once again with Charlie Rood. There's not a soul in that parking lot today, Charlie. I mean, the weather out there is so cruddy right now that I don't blame them. I don't want to be here today. Well, I do. But this terrible weather. And hasn't that been pretty much the story this last week when you say, when you run into people right now, what are you talking about? You're talking about the weather. I know it's a cliche. Well, we're always talking about the weather, but there's nothing we can do about it. But this past week, man, Mother Nature has really shown us that she is in control. She is in control. Now, when I talk about Mother Nature, I'm not talking about some mythic, gothic, whatever. To me, Mother Nature, God shows himself through Mother Nature. Now, why he would choose to make such terrible weather and so many people suffer, that's a question beyond my scope. But we are always at the mercy of something bigger, right? Even in today, and maybe that's why I have such a passion for this outdoor lifestyle. In today's technologically advanced and technical world, we are so used to being able to pick up a device or look at a screen and swipe up and swipe down or tap on some keys or press a button and get an immediate response. That machine, that gadget will do what we want it to do. And it's instantaneous, and it almost always happens. If you want to be challenged, go outdoors, go outside, go into the woods, get on the water, and then try to get a fish or a critter or Mother Nature, the weather, to cooperate with you. Then things don't always go as planned. And I think that's when you get right down to the basics of it, to the base of it, I think that's why I love it, hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, is because we're not in control of that environment. We have to take what the conditions are, what we are given, the attitude of the fish and or game, and make the most of that and try to get them to cooperate in whatever way that we're attempting to do. I like that. I like, say, sitting out in the woods in the morning, turkey season, waiting for the sun to come up and being a little bit chilly, having the wind in my face, being a little uncomfortable. It kind of reminds me that I'm alive. And then as the sun comes up and it warms up, it's like, oh, this feels good. I like this. Or being out in the boat in the morning, getting ready to jig for walleye, going, boy, there's a pretty good chop today. It's kind of windy. I don't like this. I could be home. I could be sitting in the office, sitting in front of a computer with a cup of coffee in my hand, nice and warm and comfortable. Yeah, I could be. But isn't it nice to get out once in a while and do something different? I think it is. I enjoy that. But we all come at this outdoor lifestyle from a different perspective. You might say, Avery, you're nuts. I don't feel that way at all. I don't see things that way at all, and that's fine. But you still have that same love. You still have that same passion. You just come from a different perspective, and that's great. And I also think that and I say this quite a bit, but I really believe this, that one of the reasons that hunting and fishing are so cool is that you can be as hardcore or as casual as you want to be. You know, you can take these activities to the very top level where you're absolutely consumed and you're very detail-oriented and you've got it all dialed in. Or you can sit back, put your feet up, throw a bait in the water and troll around and hope you catch fish. But it's all fun. It's all fun. And that's why I love it. What else is fun? It's fun to talk to people who have a passion for the outdoors. And you know, that's what I do every week for 3 hours. I talk to people who are passionate, who are knowledgeable, who love to share their knowledge and their interest and their expertise with you. Coming up after the break, one of those guys, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Now, just about every week, Dave joins me with a recipe. This week, I gave him a heads up. I said, Dave, let's not do a recipe this week. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about you, because this guy is a very, very interesting guy. You hear his voice on the radio. You saw him on the TV show. But what you don't know is how he got to where he is. And it's a pretty interesting story. And I'll give you a heads up, including spending time as a private chef in the Keys or even Caribbean for a guy who owned an NFL team. That's the kind of background this guy's got. Well, that and more coming up after the break with Dixie Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. If you've been with me before, you know that just about every week at just about this time, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar joins me with another great recipe. Sometimes fish, sometimes small game, sometimes big game. But this week we're gonna mix it up a little bit. And I'd given Dave a heads up ahead of time. This week I don't want to talk about a recipe, but I want to talk about Dixie Dave, the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend. The guy who has been on the Outdoor Magazine TV show, the Outdoor Magazine radio show, and in the kitchen cooking up some wonderful wild game dishes for many, many years. David, welcome back. How are you?
I am fine. I'm enjoying the lovely weather as we
Lovely weather. That's been the topic of this week's show, is this terrible weather and how it it just won't go away. But listen, let's forget about that for a minute. Let's talk about you, Dave. How did you get to where you are today? What path did you walk down to get there?
Well, as a kid, we grew up in Clio. Our family had a farm out in Clio, and my uncle, my dad's brother, owned an A&W in Frankenmuth, and so I used to ride my bike over there and, do hot dogs and hamburgers and stuff like that as a kid, So I started off, and I knew I always wanted to be a chef after that, And then I watched Graham Kerr on TV, the guy the Galloping Gourmet or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. And that really solidified what I wanted to do. So when I was able to drive, I got a job in Cromer's, Flint, which was the premier place. El Rancho and Cromer's were the two top-notch restaurants in Flint when I was growing up in the 60s. And that would be the 1960s.
1960s. Okay.
Really. I don't want people to be confused with how elderly I am. And so we did a lot of GM parties, and I worked for a Dutch chef, and the overture was German cuisine, and I learned a lot. I mean, he took me under his wing. We used to go out and do suckling pigs and take the company van and go shoot a couple of suckling pigs, to do for special parties. And Blas de Nooijer was his name. And so after I got done with that, I moved to South Miami for a couple of years, maybe one and a half years, and then I moved up to Lauderdale, and I took another apprenticeship. That apprenticeship was at Cromer's, first one, and then I took another apprenticeship in a place called the Down Under Restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, right by the Intercoastal. And so they did it the European way. You started off as like in the vegetable department, and 6 months you worked there, and then you moved up to the next station and so on and so forth. In your last 6 months, you were sous chef in this restaurant. We used to serve about 600 dinners a night. It was really, really busy. And so after that, I partnered up with a Frenchman from France, and him and I bought a restaurant in Hollywood, Florida called Le Dauphin, and the Dauphin was the heir to the throne. And so it used to be really weird, Mike, because I was the American chef and a maitre d' out front, and we used to get a lot of airplay from either the radio shows or TV shows or newspapers or food periodicals. And so then we had that for about 5 years, and the economy started to tank back then. And so I took a job. I sold my half to Gerard, and then I took a job working on the Maid Marian, which was a 117-foot wooden trumpy boat as a personal chef and a chauffeur for Mr. and Mrs. Bliss. And we went up the Intercoastal. It took us 30 days to go from Palm Beach to City Island, New York. And along the way, they had all these friends and stuff that we used to cook food for, invite them on the boat and do a dinner for them. Sometimes we'd go 20 miles a day, and sometimes we'd go a little more. And then after that, they got too old to travel on the boat anymore, and so they were originally from Detroit. And so I got another job on a boat called the Emerald K, and that was for Dutch Knowlton, and it was a 140-foot fed ship. Mr. and Mrs. Bliss's boat was 117 foot long, and it was great. I loved doing that. You know, it's like cooking for a family and then guests. And so the Dutch Knowlton boat, we went all the way up to Chicago from Fort Lauderdale. We went out about on the east coast of the U.S. We went all the way up to Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. We dieseled up, and then we went up through the Gulf of St. Lawrence, down the river there to Detroit, through the Great Lakes, and then all the way over to Chicago. And when they were filming that movie Somewhere in Time on Mackinac Island, we had the crew, the cast from the boat on board, and I cooked for them people too. Wow. And it was pretty much a fun gig, you know.
It sounds like a lot of fun, David, and it sounds like something we got to continue on next week because we ran out of time. So let's do the abbreviated version of how you got from there to where you are today, and then we'll sneak in a quick recipe as well. All right.
All right, that sounds fair.
Sounds good. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, and as you can see, a very interesting guy with a very interesting background. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com.